Nathan from Aussie Green Thumb here, and today we're joined by a couple of special guests. They have designed a gardening system that uses aeroponics to help grow plants 3 times faster and use 95% less water than soil. Prue and Tom, the founders of Airgarden, great to have you both here today.
Thanks for having us, Nathan.
Thanks, Nathan.
Now, most of our audience know about traditional gardening and even hydroponics, but not many people have heard about aeroponics. Would you guys like to give us an overview of what it is?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's reasonable. Everyone seems to know about hydroponics, but aeroponics is a little bit of, I guess, the new kid on the block. So people are starting to learn about it slowly but surely. It is a bit of closely related to hydroponics. The key difference between the two is the easiest way to think of it, I guess, is with hydroponics, the roots of your plants are consistently underwater. And with aeroponics, we're just using the air and the water, but the plants are suspended in the air and they're getting water intermittently. So they're getting very, very high levels of oxygenation. So it's predominantly growing with air and water, but no submerging of the roots under the water. So they're in the air.
Yeah, for an extended period of time, because even with some hydroponics, there are, what's called kind of flood and drain kind of systems and things like that. But yeah, the other key difference I think with ours as well is obviously a lot of traditional hydro systems to a horizontal, horizontally set up, whereas ours is vertical as well, Nathan. So the other big distinct difference with our system as well, it takes up a very, very limited amount of space because we're going up.
Vertical.
So 30 plants, less than probably half a square metre. So,
right. Talk about using the room well.
Yes.
So how have you implemented aeroponics in the air garden? Like how does the air garden work?
Yeah, well, it's basically the heart and soul of the system, Nathan. So based around that principle of aeroponics, we've designed the air garden to have a fairly large reservoir of water at the bottom of it. Contains around 85 litres of water. In that water, as you mentioned before, there's no soil at all. So we use a coconut core growing plug or medium just to kind of start our seeds. They sit in a net pot above that reservoir of water. We've got a submersible pump in the base of the reservoir, and as Prue was saying, it's on a periodic timer, so it will draw water up into the top of the system, and the system's designed as such where there's strategic kind of holes placed all through it to kind of shower each of those 30 plants that we've got sitting up in the system. And by sitting up vertically and in our little net pots, we take advantage of that cycle of that water, that nutrient-rich water hitting those plants, and then it's staying off for a fair period of time. So we've just got complete roots sitting up in air, basically a lot of oxygenation coming in and around those roots. And that really helps those plants absorb nutrient and take in more nutrient and do more with it. So even compared to hydroponics, it's quicker. So that's really kind of it in a nutshell, if that makes sense, mate.
Yeah, it does. So
good. Yeah.
So because of all the air, the plants are able to absorb the nutrients more.
Yeah, basically it just allows, there's more surface area. You've got more surface area of those roots exposed to that nutrient solution. And it allows for more of an exchange and a quicker and bigger uptake of the nutrient that you are feeding that plant, as opposed to kind of having it completely submerged all the time in water or completely submerged intermittently in a pool of kind of water. So, we're not scientists by any way, shape or form. Aeroponics is a technology that Prue's probably alluded to. It was developed by NASA to feed scientists and astronauts in space. Obviously, you can't take, big soil-based gardens up into the middle of space. Yeah. So, something developed, years ago A lot of them use really high pressure aeroponics, so kind of misting style kind of stuff. But it's the exact same principle, lower pressure, same result. Just a lot easier for the novice gardener, and Prue and I certainly were when we undertook this whole thing. We had a lot of failure growing stuff out of soil, so we saw this as an opportunity. We were like, there's got to be a better way to do things. Got to be an easier way to do it. We're all time poor. My sister's got 2 crazy kids. So that's basically how it all came about.
Well, and I think too the other thing is 1 in 10 Australians now is doesn't have a yard, right? They're living in an apartment or a unit, or the great Australian dream with the big backyard isn't something that's everyone's doing these days. So it's also, well, how can everyone do this regardless of where they live?
And there's a lot of renters as well too.
Yeah,
a lot of young people, and a lot of young people now, aspire to, healthy eating. They want to grow their own fruit and veg. And, you think you're a renter and you're in an apartment, or even if you're a renter with a house, if you've got a big soil-based kind of garden, you can't take that with you if you lease it. So this is the beauty of our system as well, is it literally packs down into the reservoir. All the parts are nesting. There's no tools involved. It's all snap kind of fit together, and we really think it's a great solution.
Yeah, you just pick it up and take it with you when you move.
Yeah, it's really easy.
Okay, so what does it weigh? About 10 kilos for the air garden when there's no water in it?
Empty when there's no water? Yeah, probably. Yeah, they're probably around about that, I'd say. About 10, 15 kilos.
Yeah.
So it's really light. Literally got some wheels. You've got built-in wheels at the bottom. So
you can push it around.
You can push it around even once you've got it. And you want to move it, because the other thing too with soil-based gardening is it's only in the one spot, right? So seasons change. Summer, winter, the sun actually moves in the sky. So the great thing about the air garden is you can kind of adapt it. You can move it
to your environment.
If you get we get some really crazy summer storms coming through Brisbane, to be able to move your air garden or your whole garden in and away from
hail,
or storms, all
that
stuff, is pretty cool as well. So we've done a lot of thinking and put a lot of effort into thinking about all these kind of things that we would want in this product, to make stuff really easy and adaptable and just kind of second nature, I think, to people.
I think that's the key. That's one of the key drivers behind Airgarden and the brand, is that it is easy.
Yeah.
And anyone can do it anywhere, anytime. And that's something that is constantly, whenever we're doing anything or looking at the design or looking at what we might, add on, does it make the end user's life easier?
Yeah.
So how long, so you've got your 30 plants in there growing, how much time a week does it take to look after?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. It's really, really simple, Nathan. And with our new air garden, when you first put your plants in, when they're seedling size, when they're this big, you can literally fill your reservoir up. You fill your reservoir up, you put your 2-part nutrient in, you balance your pH, that's it. Plug it in, you've got it in on the timer, and literally you don't have to fill that reservoir up for probably around 3 weeks, like initially. And really, we say the only thing now coming into spring and stuff, you've just got to keep an eye out for kind of bugs and stuff, really. And you want to just make sure you're maximising your sun. And aside from that, you just kick back, mate, and let it do all the hard work for you, essentially. So,
and that really, like, we set 6 up at my son's school just before the school holidays, and literally no one has looked at them. I went up yesterday. It was the start of school term Tuesday here in Queensland, and hadn't touched them.
Yeah.
The plants were enormous. Like, I've got to go back and harvest all the lettuce off them.
Yeah.
But they haven't been touched in 3 weeks. Like,
Yeah.
no one has touched those air gardens since we set them up 3 weeks ago, and they are booming.
They're going crazy. And for a lot of your viewers and subscribers out there, if they want to see it in action, if they go, you can go to our website, airgarden.com.au, or we've got a YouTube page, a YouTube channel as well. And there's some 21-day time lapses of the air garden going
speed
from
of
that
growth.
seedling, and you'll see how fast it is. Yeah, literally within 21 days, you can start harvesting those leafy greens, those lettuces, and those herbs and things like that.
And less in summer; it's almost 2 weeks.
It's pretty crazy. You can start kind of trimming, and picking and getting your food. But yeah, in that first period, it really is fairly hands off. Very hands-off, and then moving forward, it's probably literally 5 minutes a week. It's nothing. It really is. And the one thing we have to kind of remind people is it grows so fast and it looks so beautiful and so amazing. People don't want to touch it because it looks so awesome. It's like a masterpiece. It's like this masterpiece, and it looks so great. And people are like, oh my God, I don't want to touch it. It looks perfect. But in actuality, by trimming and harvesting plants, it actually really helps them grow. It takes away kind of, you trim your disease kind of, plants away, the disease leaves away. It actually really helps plants and stimulates them, and it really kind of helps them grow even more. So that's really it. The time that you do spend is just keeping an eye out for pests. And then at that kind of after that 3-week mark, you're ready to kind of start harvesting things and
you're just topping up water and adding nutrients. I mean, it's really simple.
This is quite simple. Yeah. So with the nutrients that you top in there, is it? Yeah. I noticed that you've got the 1 litre pack that comes with the air garden. So you just use that same pack of nutrients for anything you plant in there, or?
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same one.
It's a one-size-fits-all, Nathan. So it's a 2-part nutrient solution. So when you first fill up your air garden, you always add your nutrient in equal parts. So it's really easy. You're never going, oh, this time I've got to add 100 mil of this, 300 mil of that. No, it's really simple. Like, you add 200 mil of your part 1 when you first fill up your reservoir. You add 200 mil of your part 2. You just do it separately. Give each of them a stir. And then that will naturally bring down, that's got some pH buffers in it, because with your plants, they need to have a pH range of around 5.5 to 6.5 for those plants to be able to take all of that nutrient out of the water
and absorb
it and grow. So that's that kind of magic range. But you add your nutrient solution in, that'll naturally drag down the pH of your tap water. Your pH of your tap water usually starts at around 7.5 to kind of 8, depending
where you're based. Yeah.
So that just naturally brings it down, and then you get a really concentrated pH kit with the air garden. So everything you need to start growing is included with the air garden. That's a really good thing about it. You don't need to go and get bags of soil or any of that kind of stuff. We give it all to you. A couple of mils of your pH down, you're right as rain, you're good to go. And then you really don't need to kind of do that nutrient thing again. What we say to people usually is you let your water drop down in your reservoir to halfway. That can take, as we said initially, when your plants are small, that can take around 3 weeks. So you're not doing much. Once your plants start getting a little bit bigger, and you've got some fruiting plants in there, because you can grow 150 different types of fruit, veg, and leafy greens, herbs, and all that stuff. So when you've got tomatoes, cucumbers, and things like that, they're a bit more thirsty. It's really easy. That second time that your water goes down, you just top it up with some water, some plain water, and you just add a little bit of your part 1 and 2 nutrient solution again, and you kind of repeat that process that you did when you first set it up. So it really is simple, and it's just getting your head around that.
Whilst it sounds
process.
Complicated there, and all those measurements and up and down, it's really you've got
simple.
4 things you've got to do every week.
Yeah.
You check your water, you balance your pH, you harvest your food, and you make sure you haven't got any pests or leaf disease. Yeah. That's it.
It's really easy.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah, very simple.
Super simple. Yeah.
And I think the other thing too, people are getting results really quickly, which, you know, is encouraging them to keep going with it. And I think that was one of the other things that we really wanted to conquer, is that people got that early success when they were trying to grow their own food, so that they would continue to do so, as opposed to that inconsistent result that people often get when they're soil or traditional you're doing traditional gardening.
When you're waiting for weeks for something to germinate, and then you're not sure if it's a weed or if it's an actual plant. So, you know, you wait a bit longer and you realize it was a weed, and you're like, should have restarted earlier.
That's exactly right.
And it's hard sometimes too, Nathan, what we found, like with soil-based stuff, sometimes you don't know what lever to pull if you're not getting success, because if you don't have the tools to measure what's the pH of the soil and all this kind of stuff,
or the zinc, or the
you don't know. There's so many X factors with soil. Whereas with us, we're saying, like, if you're putting your nutrient in and you're doing your pH, and if you know you're checking your pH and it's within this range, then okay, well, there's only X, Y, and Z. There's only probably the pests, and maybe the nutrient solution needs to be completely emptied and changed over. So you can kind of pull levers really quickly if you're noticing some issues, like, oh, my leaves are yellowing or something's going on. You can kind of pull a lever pretty quickly to kind of get things back on track, if that makes sense. So,
it does. I think the troubleshooting makes it a lot easier when you've got water and nutrients and sun, and that's it. There's no what else is in the soil, what else is here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a really, really good point you actually just brought up there, mate. The only other X factor is sun. I mean, you know, we get some people, and, you know, God bless them, you know, they're like, things don't seem to be working. Oh, where have you got the air garden, we say? And they go, oh, it's under my veranda and it gets 1.5 hours worth of sun a day. And we're like, well, you know, you need a minimum, you know, these are living plants, you're growing plants. So the real X factor is you need a minimum 4 hours sun. And sun is that
direct sunlight.
Sunlight, you know, direct sun, meaning not kind of just outside, but you can literally see that sun beaming down and hitting the air garden. So,
I think the thing that the other part to that is, though, not all people do have access to that.
That's right.
So later, or towards the end of this year, which we're nearly in, God help us, but there is an LED grow cage that will be available with the air garden as well. So if you only have the option of, you know, growing indoors, then you can still grow.
Yeah.
Which is a great option for people as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like it really opened up the market for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, no matter where you are then.
Yeah. So, which is exciting.
So what's the air garden made out of?
Yeah, Airgarden's made out of, and we're really proud of this fact, Nathan. We doing all our research and stuff, and when we first started this, a lot of, you know, there were a few different products available overseas, Europe and the United States, but we were very, very, very committed to making the Airgarden locally. We're the only Australian-made product like this out there in the market, and we're really, really proud of that fact. The Airgarden's made out of UV stabilised food grade plastic. So that UV stabilised plastic is really important, and that food grade plastic is really important to Australian standards, because we're like everyone, you know, my sister has got a couple of little kids. We're very cognizant of we're growing food for ourselves that we're going to be ingesting into our bodies. We want to make sure that what we're making this out of is completely above board and ticks all of those boxes in terms of safety, efficacy, longevity. We've got lifetime warranties on all this kind of all of our componentry as well. And the really great thing about our Airgarden as well is at the end of its life, it can be sent back and it can be recycled and upcycled into another product. It's never going to end up in landfill.
It's not single use.
It's not single use plastic.
Which I think is important to point out to lots of people, because some people go, oh, why don't you make it in something else? But it's really the unnamed material that gives us the utility and the functionality for the system to be able to do everything that it can do. But the good part about that is, as Tom said, it's never going to end up in landfill, because we can take it back and recycle it with our manufacturers. So yes.
So you said at its end of its life, like how long would that be? Because like it's sitting in the sun all the time, so it should be protected. Like, or you guys haven't come across this yet. There's not long enough in the market to test it.
The business isn't old enough, to be honest.
No.
Like, yeah. But just to give you an idea, Nathan, the UV stabilizers in our system, it's the same stuff they use for
Water
tanks. So residential water tanks at home, and that's 10, 15 year kind of stuff.
Yeah.
In terms of that type of longevity. So we're not talking about just a couple of years.
Yeah, it's fairly significant.
It's God, I mean, 5, 10.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Well, we've had our original ones, you think about it now, for 5 years. And they're still going. They're absolutely fine. They look the same as the day we got them, except maybe a few more scratches and bumps from children and dogs. And
a few footies, footballs and balls kind of running into them. But the amazing thing too about that, Nathan, this is a really important point, because I think we all have, everyone's got a Bunnings. You've bought a plastic product, an outdoor product. And what happens, it gets brittle over time. It yellows. As Prue was just alluding to, our original air gardens that we still have that are now 5 years old, no yellowing, no brittleness, nothing like that. They're purpose built. They're made to be outside. They're made to. And some people go, "Oh, what if it rains?" And no, they're meant to be outside.
They're fine.
They're rough, tough. They're purpose built for being out in the elements 365, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So,
perfect. So what's your story? How did the air garden come about?
Probably a couple of reasons. One, obviously, the multiple failed attempts at trying to grow our own food. And I think the other big ones for Tom and I were just really, I guess, thinking that our current food system is pretty broken, and not potentially operating as well as it could be, and also wanting to, I guess, have something that was good for people, but also the planet as well. So there are a couple of things really, I guess, driving us there: the health, nutrition, environment. And frustration at not being able to consistently grow our own food, and having to buy things at the supermarket that'd be slimy or go off within a couple of days. Massive food waste. There was no flavour. And it just didn't seem like it was a good solution for long term. So that's kind of how the air garden came about. We were like, well, it's got to be an easier way to do this, a better way to do it. It's got to be simpler, but it's also got to be, good for people and the planet. And so that's how air garden came about. And then we figured out what we wanted to do, but then we were like, oh, how are we going to make this now? We've drawn it. We know what it's supposed to look like, but now what do? We don't want to manufacture, offshore. We want it to be Australian made. We don't want to import. So we partnered with the Evolve Group, who are here in Crestmead in Brisbane, which was lucky for us. And we've been working with them to develop and continue to, I guess, iterate on the air garden design since end of 2017.
Yeah.
So, it's been I said to Tom, look, we're half a decade old the other day. And Tom's like, oh my God.
Jeez.
Has it been that long? I was like, yeah.
Completely down the rabbit hole. But we wanted it to, as Prue was saying, like we looked and there were things that were around and we didn't want to import something. And we looked at that and we were like, by the time we import this, there's a couple of things. There was one, all those environmental goals kind of go out the window, because you're like, all right, well, we're importing a product thousands of miles across the ocean, but we're talking about food miles, so that's a bit disingenuous. And there was also an issue of cost. We would have had to sell something like that, for probably a pretty unaffordable amount of money.
Transparency into the products and the raw materials that were being used, which is very difficult when it's not.
It's difficult when it's not made locally. And the other real thing about that is talking about affordability around it and what it is. And the price of the air garden, is $7.99, including GST. And we think that is amazing value for money, considering we were sitting down the other day and we went, oh my God, like someone will go and buy a flat screen TV for $2,500. What does that actually, you buy that for $2,500 and then what does that give you back really? I mean, aside, it might save you from going to the movies, a couple of days a week, but people will go and buy a barbecue, a $1,200 barbecue, an amazing big thing. We'll buy a couch, we'll buy whatever. The beauty about the Airgarden is it starts putting money back into your pocket. The minute you buy it, and if you're really kind of conservative, and it's like everything, you've got to put a tiny amount of effort in. You put a really tiny amount of effort in, and you'll get some back. And the Airgarden will conservatively grow you. If you're really just putting a small amount of effort forward, it can grow you $1,000 worth of produce in 12 months. And
that's conservative. That's
pretty conservative, and there's nothing we can think of really that's got a payback period that quickly that you buy for your house, and that actually gives you so much back in terms
of it feeds you for life. That's the other thing.
Your food, your health, and all that stuff, and it really gives you joy as well. Like
massively reduces the food wastage in your household. But I think, it is a little bit of a movement for us in the sense that, using a system like the Airgarden takes massive load off our natural resources. Like we're recycling water, we're reducing, food waste, we're only taking what we need when we need it. So, if every household, even a percentage of every 1% of households in Australia, like it makes a difference because food waste is one of the biggest contributors to the, CO2, and also to a user of water. Like the production of food is massive.
It's crazy. When you look at the numbers, it really makes your head spin. You look at, like lettuce is such a staple. We all eat it. We all love it. It's just, it's what we eat. It's the first thing we eat when we think of leafy greens. And, to make a head of a field lettuce is around 50 litres of water for one head of lettuce.
Yeah.
We use about 4 litres of
it's a massive
water.
Difference.
So it's a huge difference. And, Australia is one of the driest places on earth, even though we're, third year of La Nina. We need to remember in our heads that Australia is a place of boom and bust. And more times rather than not, we're short of water in the country, and it's just water security is a really, really big thing moving forward with climate change and all those kind of things. It's a really big consideration that we all need to think about. So,
and I think even having being able to grow your own thing with the supply chains of what's going on with the farmers, over here in Sydney, lettuce is $12 each. That sort of thing, plus the water usage and the travel costs to get the lettuce into the stores, there's a lot of savings to be made.
Massive. Yeah.
Well, and the other side to that is, it's that old saying, let food be thy medicine. But realistically, most of the food that we eat has got zero nutritional value because, take spinach as a great example. 4 hours after you've harvested it, it's lost 50% of its nutritional value. The great thing about the Airgarden is that you're straight from the garden to your mouth, like when you want it. And I had a chef here from New York at my place, and he was looking at the Airgarden. He just thought it was amazing. And he said, I just can't get over this produce. Like there's still,
the flavor,
but there's also juice and moisture in the plants. He said, by the time we get stuff in the kitchens, it's just so depleted, and nutrient dead, and the flavour is hard to come by.
Yeah.
So I think there's all those things too that people forget about. And we do have so many health issues as well, around the world, that you can relate back to food and diet. So it plays, being able to have that in, right at your fingertips, I think is also really important.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Once you get used to it as well, you're like, oh my God, this is what rocket is supposed to taste like.
Yeah,
right?
so peppery.
It's super peppery. It's supposed to knock your socks off. Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, the shallots are really, it's that intense flavour. And the other really cool thing is as well is there's all that lofty stuff of, environmental or whatever, but taste, but even just like growing, it's amazing. Like when you're growing something from a seedling to a plant, you just get this like real excitement and kind of stoke about, oh my God, I've grown this little thing, and look at it. Like, and it's really awesome. And you know, it doesn't look like shallow, but it really kind of pumps your tires up. It gets you really pumped up. It's kind of addictive, you know, seeing that grow from that to that is really, really cool, you know?
I can imagine growing snow peas in it, where like you'll go, I can't find any more. You come back the next day and it's like number 5. And you're like, they weren't here yesterday. Where do they come from?
There was a video recently of a lady, and she thought she was getting these like pests were coming, or possums were coming to steal her snow peas.
The dog.
And she had this like super smart like kelpie, or like it was like coming up and just like taking these snow peas
off the air garden. It was,
and my dogs don't eat snow peas, like, but it's like, oh, how good that they must taste epic if
the dog
is eating snow peas. Like, that's pretty.
Well, I kept blaming the possums at one stage for taking stuff off mine, and then I busted my son eating little raw dwarf cauliflowers and all the snow peas. So I can't really, he's just like eating them off the air garden.
Keep going, mate.
Yeah.
So, that's what you want when your kids are sneaking around and eating veggies.
Yeah. One was eating biscuits, one was eating the vegetables. So I was like, okay, one out of 2 not bad. I'll keep working on the 4-year-old.
Balances out. Yeah.
So what's the best way for people to find more information and purchase an air garden?
Definitely head towards the website. I think, Nathan, there's a heap of information on there, lots of resources, which is www.airgarden.com.au.
And that's really good, as well as Prue was saying. And down there, Nathan, you've got our links to our YouTube channel, and that's really an awesome resource for someone who might just be trying to kind of get their head around, or how does this thing work? I kind of get it, but there's some really great videos that go through everything from kind of growing seedling, kind of setting things up, to, you know, adding nutrient. It runs you through everything. So it's a really great resource of giving you a really great overview of what the air garden is and how it works kind of on a day-to-day and how you interact with it.
The other great resource is our Facebook growers group, which is, you know, it's not input from us, but you're getting real people's experiences, and that's growing pretty rapidly. 600, 700 odd people, but, you know, really contributing, and you know, it's amazing. Actually, I try to kind of jump in every couple of days and just see what's happening, what people are doing, but it's amazing to see what people are doing and achieving with their air gardens, and that real community feel where people are helping and encouraging each other as well. So it's a great resource.
We're really proud of that.
And you guys ship Australia wide, I assume?
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely, mate.
Yeah, we're in sunny Brisneyland, but all the air gardens all across Australia.
Like and remote too. Like we've gone to
Darwin,
Broome, back at Burke, mate.
Atherton Tableland.
Everywhere under the sun, mate. Mildura.
Yeah.
We've got a few out now. Kings Canyon Resort. Which is south of Alice. So all over the place, mate.
Prue was telling me the other day that someone's got one on the yacht.
It's pretty cool.
Actually, they're about to dock. Actually, they text me, so I've got to touch. They want to come down and give us dinner on the boat from the air garden.
Perfect.
Up in the Whitsundays, I think they've been. So that's pretty cool.
So, Prue and Tom, it's been great hearing your story and learning about aeroponics in the air garden. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really wonderful chatting with you.
Well, thanks for having us, Nathan.
Thanks very much, mate.
So, I just got one last question. If you could only grow one plant, what would you grow and why?
Oh, I'd grow rocket because I just eat so much of it, and I love the flavour of it and the taste. It's just, I love it. I'm rocket.
Well, rocket. I was just going to say rocket.
One.
Okay, rocket. Yeah, because like rocket. You know what I mean?
All right.
You don't like you don't have to add onion to a salad. You don't need to add anything. You don't need to put vinaigrette or anything. You literally just eat it and go, oh, okay, actually, yeah, that I had a meat pie and Lamington for breakfast. This rocket can just offset all of that, mate, and you can do that. And mate, it's good. You can just get you back. You can get you back into the good graces.
Fantastic.
It's rocket for me too, and it grows quick as well.
So fast.
Yeah, you don't. You can just cut it, come again, mate.
It just keeps growing.
Yeah,
keeps giving.
Yeah.
All right. So everyone who gets an air garden, just grow rocket. Make sure you have your rocket stash in there.
Or jalapeno.
Jalapenos. How long did Thingo have her rocketing down at the coast? Like 4 months.
6.
Something
longer.
Yeah.
One of our clients, and we were like, "You want to change that over?" She's like, "No, I just keep growing." I'm like, "Are you sure it's not bitter?" No.
Yeah. It'd go to flour. She just cut the flour off, and then she just kept. And I go, "Does that taste?" And it still tastes
so good.
Great. So, mate, the answer is rocket.
Yeah.
Rocket.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. That's it.